Update. After 7 years of being a stay-at-home mom, my husband resents me for embarrassing him, and my son tells people I'm just a babysitter. Update. After 7 years of being a stay-at-home mom, my husband resents me for embarrassing him, and my son tells people I'm just a babysitter. I had reached my breaking point after everything I heard from Carter. With those cruel and disrespectful words, I realized I didn't have the strength to continue living that life. It wasn't just him. Nathan had become complicit in this behavior, laughing behind my back and letting Carter disrespect me as if it were a game. I had devoted 7 years to that family, and all I got in return was contempt. That night, while Carter was finally asleep, I went to Nathan. He was sitting on the couch watching TV, completely oblivious to everything happening around him. I sat beside him, my heart pounding. It was time to end this once and for all. Nathan, I want a divorce. He didn't even look at me. His eyes stayed glued to the screen as if I had just told him dinner was ready. I sighed heavily, already expecting that reaction. But what he did next surprised me. He laughed, a cold, mocking laugh, as if I were the most ridiculous joke he'd ever heard. You divorce me? He finally turned his head, his eyes filled with arrogance. Good luck with that. How do you think you're going to survive without me? You have no money, no job. You depend on me for everything. I stood frozen for a moment, absorbing the cruelty of his words. But instead of breaking me, they fueled me. Did he really think I was useless? That I couldn't rebuild my life? I took a deep breath and stood up, never breaking eye contact with him. I'll survive, Nathan. And I'll live much better without you. He just shrugged, thinking I was bluffing, but I wasn't. That night, I made up my mind that I was going to change my life. The following weeks were tough. Nathan completely ignored me, as if he was waiting for me to give up on the divorce and return to our miserable routine. Carter continued treating me poorly, but I knew that came from his father's influence. Our relationship was strained, but something inside me had shifted. I decided I would no longer be the person who lived solely for others. I spent the first few days crying alone, trying to figure out what to do. No career, no support, and very little money. It seemed impossible. But then, one afternoon while I was baking a cake just to relax, something I always enjoyed doing to relieve stress, an idea came to me. Why not sell these cakes? I started small, selling to neighbors and Bianca's friends. They always said I made the best cakes they'd ever tasted, but I had never taken it seriously. This time, I decided to take a chance. With what little I had left in savings, I bought ingredients and invested in simple but nice packaging. I created a page on social media, took pictures of the cakes, and within a few days, I already had several orders. Nathan, of course, didn't take it seriously at first. He laughed whenever he saw me walking out of the kitchen with boxes of cakes, thinking it was just a passing phase, something that wouldn't amount to anything. But the weeks went by, and the orders kept coming. Soon, I had more requests than I could handle on my own. There was a moment a few weeks later when Nathan walked into the kitchen and saw the scene, cakes lined up, boxes ready for delivery, and my phone buzzing non-stop with new orders. What is this? He asked, unable to hide the disbelief in his voice. My job, I replied firmly. I told you I would survive, Nathan. He stood there in silence, clearly surprised. I could see the realization slowly dawn on him. He had completely underestimated me. Not long after, I was able to finally file for divorce. I no longer needed his money, his approval, or, most importantly, his life. I was building something for myself. Something that made me happy. That idea, born out of a need to rediscover myself, became my greatest victory. In a few months, I expanded my cake business to local cafes, and even Carter began treating me differently, seeing that his mother wasn't the weak independent figure he thought. He was still young and our relationship was still strained, but now I knew I could take care of myself, and, if necessary, of him, without needing anyone. I had finally set myself free. I walked out of that house with just a suitcase in my hand and a purpose in my heart, never to depend on anyone again. Nathan didn't believe in me. He thought I couldn't survive without his help. But the moment I closed the door behind me, I knew I was leaving behind not just a failed relationship, but an old version of myself that no longer existed. Over time, my small cake business grew. The success I found selling to neighbors expanded to cafes and local restaurants. I worked tirelessly day and night, experimenting with new recipes, developing my brand, and learning everything I needed to know about running a business. I couldn't afford to rely on anyone. I was doing this for myself, and for Carter, who, despite being influenced by his father, was still my son and needed a better figure to guide him. Within a year, I opened my first bakery. It was called Sweet Victories, a personal reminder that every challenge I overcame was a sweet triumph. Customers came from all over, drawn by the flavor and quality of the cakes, and the shop quickly became a local favorite. With the money coming in from sales, I opened a second shop in another city, and before I knew it, I was franchising across the country. In 5 years, Sweet Victories had become a national chain. Each store represented a piece of my journey, a living testament to the fact that with determination and hard work, I could overcome any obstacle. The name, which had started as a personal symbol, now represented so much more. It was a victory over Nathan's contempt, over the years of being undervalued, and most of all, over my own doubts. At the peak of my success, something unexpected happened. I received a court summons. Nathan, broke and bitter, had filed a lawsuit against me. He was demanding half of the Sweet Victories brand, claiming that since we divorced during the business's growth, he was entitled to a portion. His audacity left me speechless. He hadn't contributed a single penny or effort to my success. On the contrary, he had tried to undermine and humiliate me, and now he wanted to profit from it. On the day of the trial, I was ready. The courtroom was packed, and the tension in the air was palpable. Nathan sat across from me with his lawyer, trying to look confident, but his appearance showed clear signs of financial ruin. When it was my turn to speak, I stood up, looked at the judge, and began what would be the most important speech of my life. Your Honor, everything I have achieved was with my own 2 hands. When Nathan and I separated, he told me I wouldn't survive without him, that I didn't have resources, that I depended on him. But the truth is, the success of Sweet Victories came from every cake I baked, from every sleepless night, from every tear I shed. Nathan didn't believe in me. He didn't support me, and he never took part in building this business. Like, you can click on share more to see if there is a part 2.